You can take it away. All right, guys. What's up, guys? Welcome back to the All Gains podcast. We have a special guest for you guys today. We got John Sonmez from Bulldog Mindset. John, thanks for coming on again. We appreciate it, man.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Yes, no problem. John is someone who I think is a massive role model because I think the things that I've seen from him, he's gone through a lot. He's gone through a body transformation. He seems like he's a very honest man. And I think one of the things about being a man is being honest, transparent, and living the life that you want to live. And I think John is a good example of someone who lives the life that he wants and is, even though we all make mistakes, he seems to always go rise above them, and he always makes the positive of the situation. So I want you to tell the audience a little bit about who you are and what got you started into YouTube and all that.
Yeah, sure. So my name is John Sonmez. I run a company called Bulldog Mindset. Really, the company is focused on getting rid of the victim mindset, teaching men how to be men. And I've gone through quite a bit of changes myself. I started off as a software developer, and I did that for about 15 years. I started a company called Simple Programmer through that, first just as a blog. And then that's really actually what got me into YouTube. Is I had my blog and I started getting job opportunities and other opportunities from that. And I realized the power of branding yourself and marketing yourself. So I started selling a program teaching software developers how to market themselves as software developers, which was pretty successful. And then, eventually I got to a point where I could quit my job. I'd been doing real estate investment for a while, and my dream was to kind of retire young. So I did that at about 33 years old, which is about 10 years ago. And from there, at first I went and I tried to just sip Mai Tais on the beach and play video games. And I went to Hawaii and I just most depressed, most miserable I'd ever been in my life. And I realized that, just because you reach your goal doesn't mean that you stop, it's like, and so I came back, with a renewed interest on developing myself, like reaching the next goals for me, and really changing my focus from my goals becoming, my goals were before what would I get, but now they're who do I become, right? And so through that process, I went through a lot of growth, got introduced to Stoic philosophy, and really integrated that into my mindset. And then, my presence in the social media place, YouTube and stuff, has always been a reflection of who I am and what I'm going through at that point. And so being a programmer really no longer served me. That wasn't what I was doing. So I was learning a lot about personal development, reading a lot of books, developing my own masculinity, as I realized I didn't really have a good grasp on that, and transforming myself. And so that's where Bulldog Mindset was kind of born, was from what was important to me at the time, right? And it was sort of the first few years of Bulldog Mindset was me on my journey and documenting that as I was, growing into myself. And yeah, and that's kind of where we're at today. But yeah, that's really what got me started on YouTube, just from the programming days, and then into Bulldog Mindset, and it just continually transforms to what I find that I can teach best at what my stage of life is. So,
What do you think? What do you think defines a man compared to what a male is? Like, what do you think the principles of a man are? Like, what makes a man an actual man compared to just kind of living life, kind of going through the motions? And, because I think there are different qualities compared to like what I would call what a man is compared to what a male is. So
yeah.
What do you think about that?
Yeah. So, I mean, there's a lot of different ways to look at this, but the biggest thing that I look at in terms of this is a man trusts his own judgment and makes his own choices, and then takes responsibility for his actions. So accepts the consequence of his actions, right? So when I feel like I fully stepped into manhood was when I said, I'm going to do what I want to do, not based on other people's opinions, but based on my own judgment. And that is the most important thing, is my own judgment as a man. And I will accept whatever consequences come from those actions. And I think that's really the core key thing. There's other attributes we could say. We could look at what way of men. The ideas of courage and in virtue, and some of these other things. But I think the core thing is really it's almost going your own way, right? It's choosing your own path, choosing to make your judgment the highest one. Because a lot of times, I think early, as we're developing as boys, what kind of makes us a boy is that naturally the hierarchy of things. Not everyone has a father figure, but we respect our father figure as the leader of the tribe, as the king, and we derive our value from his judgment, right? And so, the transition from boyhood to manhood is what I call metaphorically killing your father. It's when you say, I no longer bow to your throne. I have my own throne. I take up my own scepter, and I crown myself king, and I am king of my tribe, and now my judgment rules supreme in my life, not yours, not anyone else's. And most boys never go through that transition and become men, unfortunately, in society today. There used to be rites of passage. There used to be actual ways in which society helped boys become men through this process. In a lot of times it was some kind of ordeal or things like that, but that doesn't exist as much today. And so a lot of men grow up never growing up to actually be men.
Mm. Yeah. I mean, I think it's a very, because a lot of people they seem very lost today. I think we live in a world where, first of all, a lot of people they live on the internet. I think more than
Yeah.
real life. That's
Yeah.
one of the big problems that I see.
Huge problem.
And when people I mean, I think reading books is even a little bit better because at least I think it's always good to understand different perspectives. That's kind of how you grow your mind and everything. But you have to be comfortable to learn other perspectives because a lot of people they have a really big ego. I mean, I think his ego is good up to like an extent, I would say.
Right.
But you have to be able to look inwards and say, okay, maybe I can change things up and maybe I'm not doing everything that I could be doing my best. And I think one of the things that makes a man is someone who's able to say, okay, I think I can improve this and I want to know how. And I'm going to go search for results because I think a lot of men are afraid to ask for help.
Mhm.
And when I think a lot of men are afraid to look at different perspectives for help because they think, oh, I could do this. I don't need anybody. I mean, which is good to have if you're like in a survival situation, like I gotta find the firewood sort of thing. But if you're kind of trying to find your way in life and you don't know how to do certain things, it's always good to find people who have maybe done the work already. That's why a lot of people look at, like, for example, the books of Arnold Schwarzenegger or like the encyclopedia of like bodybuilding because they want to learn for someone who's already done the work. He's won Mr. Olympia and all that kind of stuff. And a lot of people, it takes a long time to go through those kind of transformations, and also being honest with who you are, right? Because a lot of
Yeah.
people they don't know who they are, and they're not willing to do the work to find out who they are.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. I think that's a huge part of it is to be able to be objective and look, I have this exercise in the Bulldog Mindset membership where we talk about like looking in the mirror. Right. And the whole point is, it sounds kind of silly, the exercise, but you essentially strip naked, stand in the mirror, look in the mirror, and not see yourself through judgmental eyes, but just observation. What is the real reality of my physical appearance? Right. And then you take it one level deeper and say, what's the real reality of my character? Right. Am I brave? Am I fearful? Am I honest? Do I lack integrity? Like, what are the things, again, without judgment? Because once you take an honest assessment of yourself, that's when you can actually change and grow. But until you do, you won't be able to. And most people aren't willing to have that eye to look at themselves naked in the mirror, right? Not just physically, but, without hiding behind any mask. So,
Yeah, I mean, I think a man needs to be honest with the world, but he can't do that until he's honest with himself at first.
mhm.
So I saw you did like a recent video. You kind of outlined like a lot of your personal life stuff. So like, I don't know, what made you like have the courage, I would say, to put out all your personal life on the internet like that? Because I think it took a lot of courage personally, and I think that I kind of admire that because a lot of people they're very afraid to show the world who they are and what
Mhm.
they've been through, and they're afraid to put their experiences out there. So what made you kind of like get all that information together and like finally decide to put all that information on the internet?
Yeah, I mean, it was a lot of things. I mean, I've wanted to be honest and transparent. The life I was living was kind of a double life for some period of time, and
Hmm.
obviously I had my own justifications in my head for why I was doing the things that I was doing. There was definitely extenuating circumstances, if you've seen in the video, but it prevented me from being transparent and being honest because obviously I couldn't put out the real truth when it would affect multiple people and and whatnot. So, as soon as I felt like that story was wrapped up and then I could put out the truth, then that's the first thing I wanted to do was to get back on, back to being as transparent as possible. I think part of it too is it's just like, I mean, I don't know. I always view mistakes I make and things as just, I'm not afraid to share them. I don't really have shame because it's humanity, right? This is like the core of who we are as people. We all struggle with these things, you know, and if I can share that, I think, you know, there's, I got into a discussion with one gentleman about this, about, you know, about vulnerability, right? And he was saying, you know, and this person's pretty respected in the men's development area, and he's written some really good books on it. But him and I disagree on vulnerability, because he said vulnerability is weakness, right? And men should never be vulnerable. And I disagree with that. I think that vulnerability is true vulnerability, strong vulnerability is when you share something that someone could perceive as a weakness, but you don't perceive it as a weakness, and therefore it's not a weakness. So a good example of this would be, if you've seen the movie Braveheart, right? There's this scene where they're fighting in, you know, the army, like the guys, they turn around and they moon the other, you know, and it's like, they're showing their vulnerable parts, their ass. Why? Because they're not afraid, because they don't see it as weakness, right? Weakness is when, you know, you can be vulnerable and be one of those guys that cries on the shoulder of your girl and is like, oh, you know, whatever, like, you know, and just, you know, wears his heart on his sleeve. You could be that kind of, that would be weak, right? Because you're not actually doing that from a place of strength. But I've always found that no matter what mistakes you do, we all screw up, right? If you can present it in a way that it's not, that you're not perceiving it as weakness, the storyteller, the person sharing it, then that's a true valuable vulnerability. So that's something that I've always found valuable, and I've never found people to judge you based on that, right? I think it's when people are trying to hide their mistakes and they're trying to make excuses for their mistakes or justify their mistakes, that's when we go on the offense, because we smell a rat, we know something's wrong. But as long as you're being transparent, honest, and sharing what has happened without judging, then I find that most people are amiable to that. So
Yeah, I think there definitely needs to be like a balance in between them.
Yeah,
You know?
I agree. Also, I wanted to also say that the quality of the video that we're talking about right now of your personal life, and I said it in when we actually reacted to that video on stream, that it's so beautifully edited that I was just so like focused on like watching the video. It was very good. So I wanted to give you some props on that. I thought that
Thank
was
you.
amazing.
Yeah, you know, one of the things that like what I think when what I've seen, like I see it in my personal life all the time, is I think like a lot of men, they work in the self improvement environment a lot, but one of the things they don't really work on too much is their problems with women. And I think you can go to the gym and you can get a job making 100K a year, 500K a year, a million, it doesn't even matter. But if you can't get your life in order when it comes to women, all of that hard work that you're putting in the other areas of life, and if you're missing that one area in life, I think you're gonna give yourself a big deficit in a little bit. So I want to know, like, how did you get into like the pickup scene, and how did you end up understanding women and all that kind of those dynamics, and how did it play like a role in your life and all that?
Yeah. Yeah. So it's kind of interesting because, you know, I was basically like the basic blue pill guy for a very long time, right? I got married when I was 21 years old, you know, as I said in the video. And up to that point, I hadn't had very much experience with women at all. I was sort of very barely introduced to the pickup community back then. Like I remember finding like the old fast seduction news groups, and there was like this like Bible of, you know, how to it kind of like it helped me a little bit. It was sort of like it gave me the weapon in order to attract my now ex-wife, right? Because I knew how to kind of chat on on Messenger to like be a little bit like, you know, to be teasy, like, you know what I mean? And it was different than what I had done before. But I had like such a shallow understanding, right? It was, and that's, I think that's a lot of the problem with a lot of the pickup community, a lot of pickup content, is that a lot of guys develop tactics, but they're not actually the man, right, underneath it. And that was my problem there, right? And so I was very, very weak as a man. I let myself be walked all over, basically facing all kinds of abuse. You know, I was trying to be that good guy that most guys try to be. And and I didn't realize, I didn't know how to set boundaries. I didn't really understand, you know, some of the stuff that in the red pill kind of community, that even though I think the red pill stuff goes a little bit extreme, there's some fundamental truths about the nature of women, right? I didn't understand those things. And those fundamental truths about the nature of women are harsh truths that men do not want to accept. They are
Oh,
harsh
yeah.
truths,
Oh, yeah.
right? I mean, women can be vicious. Women are, but it is biology, right? It is what is sexually attractive to women. Like it's objective. It's not something that you
nature.
get to negotiate, right? And so I think what ended up happening was I sort of had this frustration, right? The whole time I was married of like, I knew that I wasn't the guy that I wanted to be, that I wasn't attractive to women, that I had never developed that part of myself. And, in my marriage, when things were I was just had enough of it. That's when I started like, it kind of started for me as I was running on the beach one day, and I saw these three girls that were on the beach there, and I was like, well, you know what, I should go and talk to one of those girls. And I was like, and at this point too, I was sort of making some content. Even I was making some content where I was telling guys about how to like interact with women and stuff, and I didn't know what the hell I was talking about. And I was like, all right, John, like you say that you're this confident guy, right? You're kind of representing this thing, but here's three girls, right? And you're making all the kind of excuses in your head as why you won't talk to them. And so I was like, fuck, you're either a fraud or you're not, right? Like you just have to make this decision right now. And so,
Right.
I got my nuts together, and I went up and I talked to the girl. I said, I said something stupid like, I think I saw you somewhere or something. Or, I know you from somewhere, whatever. It didn't matter, because that was like the first step for me, right, to overcome that fear. And then from there, I saw this huge deficiency. I saw that I was afraid to talk to girls. I didn't really know how to interact with them. And so I started studying, I started practicing. I really just started going out, talking to girls all the time, getting over the fear, pushing myself further and further. And eventually I got involved to the point where I was helping other guys, because I had just been there coaching them, and going out to Vegas, doing coaching and stuff like that. And it really, a lot of it was, it wasn't even that I was necessarily trying to just make a business out of that. It was more like it was my development. Like it was,
Right.
as I was going out and teaching other guys, it was actually making me better, and then really shoring it up for me to get to that point where I felt like I had competence in that area. And I think it's sort of like it's one of these insecurities that all men have, is this fear that they can't go and talk to a woman. They can't, and so I felt like I had to overcome that fear. But a lot of guys get trapped in this treadmill of external validation, right? I think there's some value to getting some initial external validation, in the sense that now okay, I can do it, right? And I can be attractive to women. Okay, fine. But a lot of guys keep getting trapped there, and they keep on pushing after it, thinking that, oh yeah, if they get this hot girl, or they get a threesome or whatever, that it's finally going to prove to themselves that they're the man. But it never will, right? It has to be like, you can get a little bit of that, and then you have to get off of that, and then realize, okay, you have to do the work yourself to get the rest of the way.
No, exactly.
Oh, yeah.
Because like I think I'm the only one, and Mike can attest to this. I think I'm the only one of the people that we know in real life that actually will go up and say hi to a girl at the ShopRite or at the beach or at the at the gym. If I see someone that I like, you virtually don't have much competition in that realm, because most guys are just simply afraid to go say hi to a girl. Even just saying, you don't have to go like, oh, hey, are you from Tennessee? Because you're the biggest 10 I said. Like, you don't have to do any of that. You could, you can easily just go up to a girl, say hi. I just want to meet you real quick. I saw you cute from over there. Right. And simple as that. And then, natural chemistry enhances, and then boom, you're already in a conversation. Then you get a number, and if you got to go, you got to go. But a lot of people won't do that. Just it's that, I think, that initial, approach anxiety. And a lot of
and guys make all kinds of excuses now about getting Me Too'd, or like, it's such bullshit. It's really, they're just afraid. Like, it's like, you know what I mean? Like, obviously you're not going to inappropriately touch some girl that you don't know, right? But at the same time, like, you can go up and talk to a girl, right? You can go up and, if you're having a conversation with a girl, put your arm, on her, put your hand on her. It's like, obviously these things are basic stuff that most men are afraid to do, to be honest with you, right? So that's the thing. So
yeah, I always say, like, I tell Mike and like all of our other friends, like, men will go to the military, sacrifice their life for their country, but they won't go say hi to a girl at the supermarket. To me, that's always kind of like, whoa. Like, when you hear that, it kind of like blows your mind, because like, wow, it's kind of crazy. Like, the woman is like the ultimate fear. Like, bet a guy, a few bucks. Hey, I bet you won't go talk to that girl. Like, oh, I don't know. Like, now I'm trying to make $10, so I'll go up there. I'll go do it. I don't care. Yeah. But it's some, a lot of people don't have that. Do you think we're actually meant to be monogamous as a species? Because a lot of people think the people are very divided on that. I'm not
Yeah.
really too sure on the science of that, but what do you think about that?
I mean, I've read a lot of evolutionary biology, and there's a lot of arguments for and against it. I think that yes, that we are meant to be monogamous, and I think the reason why is that if you look at society and you look at the culture, and as far as children are concerned, any kind of non-monogamous relationship does not work for raising a family and for raising children. It just does not. No matter how many people try to justify it, it is not as effective as having a
Mhm.
strong family unit. And so I think that's key. And then also, you know, I think marriage, right, is designed to make you better, right? And even my bad marriage, even with my ex-wife, man, that made me so much of the man I am today, right?
Mhm.
I'm so patient now. Like I have dealt with so much stuff that I learned a lot. I learned a lot because when you're dealing with someone who is abusive, also, not that you should get into a relationship with an abusive person, but when you are and you don't see an alternative as a way out, then you have to really start to self-reflect a lot and figure out what are the things that you can work on yourself, right? Because you can't change the other person, but you can. And so a lot of personal development comes from being with one person and not having an alternative. I think it really does, because it forces you to really examine inward and to examine and to find, even with my current relationship with my new wife now, there's a lot of things that I thought I had conquered that I've revealed about myself that have come out. So I think it is, it is ideal, but I think the problem is that you have to find the right person, and you have to really, really evaluate and be discerning in the person that you're going to be with, right? To
Mhm.
be monogamous with, right? I think a lot of guys make the mistake, like I made, in getting or settling down too young. I think for most guys, they're not going to be able to handle
Right.
it. I always advise younger guys today, right? If you're not already in a serious relationship, you're not already, then wait until you're in your 30s, 30, 35, somewhere probably 35 is where, if you're doing things right as a man, right? If you use
Right.
your 20s to read a lot of books, to get in shape, get your physique on point, just get a really good physique, to build a business, start making money, and to ground yourself as a man and date a lot of women so that you can, know that you're that you've got the ability to do that, like to learn women's behavior and to be able to set boundaries and to be able to tell women no. Like if you can do all that stuff, by the time you're 35, you can have a much wider selection, right? You can have you're a guy that's, let's say, 35 years old, that makes good money, that has a good physique, that is not a pushover and not an asshole, right, at the same time, that's a well-grounded man. He's way more rare than a 10. There's so many girls that are 10s in this world, but there's so few of those guys. Like that guy is extremely valuable, and he's going to have a selection of women, and he can date 20-year-old women if he wants to. And believe me, I know, when I was out there, I was dating a 20-year-old women at 40, right? And but the key is to work on developing yourself to become that. And then, if you do that, you can pick a wife instead of, most guys, I think, just like myself, right? Because I was guilty of this. They marry the first girl that will fuck them, right?
Right. I
That's
see that. Yeah.
yeah,
We see that a
Our
lot,
high school
actually.
friends are down bad right now.
A lot of people that we know
yeah.
are down bad.
How do you think a man should vet a girl that he wants to marry? Like, what do you think are some green flags that you should look for a girl, like, to actually want to settle down with, like things, maybe traits or qualities that you would look for in a woman that you would ever want to decide to be your wife, compared to just a girl you just saw once. You know what
Yeah.
I mean?
I think the biggest thing I would say is that she treats you like a king,
Right.
right? Right. And I always say the dynamic is not she's your queen, she's your princess, because it sounds a little bit weird, but women should be treated as a princess, men should be treated as a king, right? That's really the dynamic that you're looking for, because you're the authority. You're not co-ruling, like you're the
Mhm.
authority as the man, and she
I
needs to
agree.
recognize that authority and recognize that leadership. Now, the problem that I think a lot of guys get into is that they try to force that dominance, right? Whereas it has to be a willing submission. And so you're dating a girl, right? She by how you treat her and the boundaries that you have and respect for yourself that you have, she should be treating you like a king. And a part of her treating you like a king is her being obsessed about you, right? So you're going to be looking for that she treats you with respect and treats you like a king. But what really informs that, what really causes that, is if she is just crazy about you, right? Like, you do not accept any woman that is not absolutely crazy about you. Just reject her, right? Now, obviously, you need to develop yourself as a man to be able to get to that point and understand, female psychology. But if she's not crazy about you, it is doomed to failure. That is if you could pick one determining, green light, that would be it. Because a woman that is as super obsessed about you, she will treat you well. She will treat you right.
Right.
And she will do things for you. It completely changes the dynamic. So many guys have women where the woman is interested in them, but not really interested in them. And that is, it's a horrible position to be in. Because the thing is, as a man, when you get into a marriage or get into a relationship, you're giving up your agency, right? Because women are the gatekeepers of sex and men are the gatekeepers of relationship.
Right.
And so at the point where you decide to get into a committed relationship with her, especially marriage, you've given up all of your leverage. You have no leverage anymore. I mean, you could still walk, but it's going to be at a high cost to you. So before you're willing to make that trade, you have to make sure that she's obsessed about you, that she can't live without you. And if that's not the case, then you need to pass and move on. And there's obviously other secondary traits, right? How is she feminine? Is she kind? Is she But I think a lot of those other traits are things that can be trained into a woman. Okay, now I don't mean to sound like an asshole by saying this, but women in a relationship are primarily a reflection of the man they're with, right? So whatever kind of man you are, that's what the woman's going to be. Now, if she's obsessed about you and she treats you like a king, she's going to listen to you and she's going to follow you and she's going to shape her behavior based on you, right? And that, for example, just a great example of this is about 3 months ago, I decided to stop drinking completely, right?
Okay. Good
So
job.
Yeah.
and I didn't really have a drinking problem or anything. I just decided I don't want to poison my body anymore. There's no need to take alcohol in, right? My wife also stopped drinking. I didn't ask her to stop drinking. I didn't say stop drinking. She just took the cue and is doing that, right? Because she's following my lead, right? And so so a lot of those other attributes, I think a lot of guys are like, oh, Western women are all trash and blah, blah, blah. They're feminists and all this stuff. And it's true. Like, society has brainwashed Western women, right? For TikTok, and Instagram and all this kind of bullshit. Like, it's true. But the thing is, the solution is not to try and go and get a passport and whatever. The solution is to be a man, to learn how to be a man. Because so many guys are fucking pussies today, right? It's so easy to be a man who's not a like, you're already top 1% if you're not a fucking pussy, right? Because so many men are. And then you find a woman, and it doesn't matter if she's a feminist. If she's in her heart genuinely a good person, she might be brainwashed, but she's a good person and she's obsessed about you and treats you like a king. You can correct all that other stuff because she will follow your lead and want to adapt your values and beliefs, because that's how it should be. And that's how a marriage should work. So
you're literally 100% right. Because literally, whenever I'm whenever I'm with a girl, I'm dating a girl, and because I do like the keto carnivore diet, so I eat a lot of like eggs and meats, and I don't eat any of that bullshit processed foods. So like, if I'm dating a girl and we're going out, like I'm gonna eat the burger with no bun, side of broccoli, right? Girl, and they ask the girl, "What do you want?" Well, I'm gonna have a burger with no bun with a side of broccoli. It's like, okay, cool, And then she's losing weight, she's already looking better, she feels better. We're already on the same. So it's a beautiful, So you're absolutely right, and that's happened to me multiple times. With the girl, literally would just eat healthy because I eat healthy. Completely the same thing. Like, how do you set boundaries with a woman? How do you think? Like, let's say a woman is giving you a shit test, or she's trying to make demands, or she's trying to maybe come at you, yell at you when she gets, out of control. How do you handle that situation as a man compared to a male?
Yeah. So the big thing is it's really, a lot of this is nonverbal communication and how she perceives you, right? So if you already have a woman who is obsessed with you, okay, then and she knows that you're not a pushover, right? Because you're not a pushover, because you've carried yourself in that way, right? In subtle ways, she can pick up on this. Then all you have to do to set a boundary is say, I don't like that. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
That's all I say. I don't need to say anything else besides I don't like that. Why? Because the girl that I'm with wants to please me, right? And if she doesn't, that's a red flag. That's a problem right there. You've messed up already, right?
Mm-hmm.
Right.
So I don't like that should be all that you need to say. And now if she persists after you said I don't like that, now you can make it a little bit more clear, right? But always calm, never angry, right? Always like a coach, right? You're a coach, right? And if you don't like it, if you don't like how she's behaving, you exit. Use the most powerful weapon, which is you withdraw your attention, because that's the value that you have. You don't try and
Right.
push her into it. You don't make threats. You don't make ultimatums. You don't say you better straighten up or all. That's all weak shit. It's all weak, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like the most powerful thing is just to be like, I don't like that. Now, if you're already in a situation where you've tolerated some where I don't like that isn't going to carry any weight, because I know most guys are probably in that situation, then the next thing that you do in that situation is that you just draw the boundary clearly by saying, hey, uh, don't don't call me that, or don't talk to me like that, right? And
Right.
then you're not getting into an argument about it, right? She's going to have a choice there, and what you do next is going to be extremely important, right? So she's going to either choose to say, okay, I'm sorry, I won't do that, which if she's angry, she's probably not going to do that, right? If it's already gotten to that point. Or she's going to continue to persist, or start to say, you can't tell me what to do, whatever it is. Any negative response, you completely ignore and you just withdraw. You just
Right.
withdraw your attention. You just leave. That's it. Okay. And the thing about it, and this is a mistake that I made in my original, marriage, is that, I kind of said in the video too, is that if you do that, it will never get to that point. Like, let's say you're dating a girl on the first date, she says something off color and she's like, whatever, she insults you in some way. You set the boundary right there. Heck, at that point, you can probably say, I don't like that. Right. Or you say, hey, you don't talk to me like that. That's not, that's not respectful. Right. At that point, if she continues, you just leave. You're done with her. That's it. I mean, if she calls up and apologizes later and says, I'm really, really sorry. Okay, then maybe you give her a second chance. But you're cutting things the moment. So you're never letting it get to the point
Right.
where she's yelling at you, calling you names, throwing things like if you've gotten it to that point, you have fucked up somewhere. It's no longer her fault. It's your fault, because you have fucked up somewhere along the line, because you could have cut it at any point as soon as she shows it. And it's so critical to be on top of this as soon as any disrespect at all is shown, because women will test you and they will see. And if you let a crack in your armor and she gets in there, she's going to continue to disrespect you. And she's going to be not attracted to you because she disrespects you, which is a cycle that's going to make her disrespect you even more. So it's really, really critical to set the boundary and then do the behavior. It's almost the same thing, right? I've got a daughter. If I'm in the store with her and I tell her something and she's like asking for something, I'm like, look, stop it. Do not ask me again. If she asks me again, we're leaving the store.
Mm-hmm.
I don't care if it's like we're gonna drop in the things that we're gonna check out. It's it, right? Or we're leaving the restaurant or whatever it is, because what she has to learn, when I say something, I don't need to make a threat. I don't need to give a warning. Like it means it, right? So it's the same thing. You have to deal in that way. You can still be compassionate and be a kind person. You should not be a nice guy, but you should be a kind guy.
Mm-hmm.
But you should absolutely not let anything slide.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I agree. I've actually, so here's a good story. So I was in the car with my girl, and I had given her a ring because she was my fiance, and personal context for me is I like to push buttons with everybody, including her. So I like to fuck around and just annoy people to a certain extent. And so she also picked that up with me because she has a lot of desire for me. And so what she would do though was there was a time where she would take the ring and start taking it off. And I remember being in the car on a highway and literally I stopped and I was like, do not do that ever again. That is very disrespectful to me. If you'd ever do that, like, just don't ever. And then I just kept driving, didn't
Right.
speak. And for a long time, she never did it. And if she ever was even trying, I just had to look in her direction and she just stop.
Right.
I'm sorry, stuff like that. She just completely negated the thoughts of her wanting to even do that.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like you have to stick it down, say like this is the boundary, this is how it is, and don't try to ever disrespect me on that. And a lot of guys, they can't do that, and they blame other people for their, you know, irresponsible actions and stuff, because they'll blame the woman
Right.
for the way that they're acting, but it's their own actions that are making them do it.
As the man, you guys set the tone.
Exactly.
Just like you were saying from the beginning. Now,
Yeah,
John,
you train people how to teach you or how to treat you, right?
Yeah,
That's
absolutely.
it's fun. I was watching this this TikTok today, this account, and it's this stupid account, but there was such a great example in here because most men don't notice how to set boundaries at all, right? And this guy, he was going up to people in stores and he was like saying, "Hey, get on my way, pipsqueak," right? And he was like, and like 80% of the guys that he was saying this to were just like they were ignoring him, or they weren't responding. They weren't like challenging him in any way. They were just like, you know, not setting a boundary, right? Just letting him get away with this, and he would keep on harassing him, calling him names and stuff. And then there was this one where this black dude, right, he goes up to him and he's like, "Hey, get out of my way, pipsqueak," right? And the guy's like, "What?" And then he's like, "I said, get out of my way, pipsqueak," and he was like, "Don't call me pipsqueak." Right. And there's just as simple as that. Just don't call. That's a boundary. That's all you have to fucking do. You don't have to get in a fight with the guy. You don't have to like, you know, go call him names either. You just say, "Don't do this." Right. And then so many guys won't even do that. And that is so powerful. Just saying no, just saying don't do this. And yes, sure, someone can continue to violate your boundary after that. But then, you know, obviously in a relationship, you can leave or you can escalate it if that becomes the situation. But, you know, I just thought that was just a great example of how 90% of guys are just going to let someone just completely push them around and violate their boundaries.
Oh, yeah, it's crazy. Now, John, you've actually done something that maybe about less than 5% of the population did. You actually had a body transformation. So can you tell us like how many pounds did you lose? Like how much did you weigh earlier? And how much did you get yourself down to? Like how did that body transformation happen?
Yeah. So it's kind
of a big guy to like, yeah, like 6-pack abs now, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. So it was kind of, I kind of went back and forth a few different ways. So when I was in high school, I got in fairly good shape. Like I had this transformation where I gained a lot of muscle. And then after I got out of high school, I kind of, you know, got fat and happy, right? Got married and stuff and started to gain some weight. And at the time I was lifting a lot. So I was getting pretty big. And I was about 300 pounds or so. And I was a big 300 pounds. Like, you know, I had maybe 20% body fat, but even at 20% body fat, 300 pounds is I know I'm 6'3" is pretty huge, but I tore my pec. Right. And after that pec tear, I couldn't bench. I could hardly even drive a car. Right. So I just lost almost all my muscle. I just gave up on going to the gym because I couldn't even lift the bar right on the bench press. It was just pathetic after being the biggest guy in the gym. Now I was like, I couldn't do anything. Right. So I just let myself go. I was eating junk and stuff. So then I ballooned back up to like 305 pounds, but this time at like 30% body fat or so. You know, I was definitely, you know, fat, right? You probably seen the pictures and stuff. And then you know, I went to the store one day to buy new pants because my pants didn't fit, because my 44s didn't fit. So I had to buy a size 46 pants. That's when I was like, fuck, John, you are fat. Like, you don't just have a belly. Like, this is some bullshit. And I realized I kind of had this come to Jesus moment. It's like, all right, this is the direction your life is going. Like, you're going to continue down this path if you don't stop it now. Like, you're not going to become a rock star someday. Like all this stuff, like you think that you're this badass, but you're not. You're just a fat ass, right? And so at that point, I decided that I was going to change my life, you know, not just lose the weight, but like go after all the things I want in life. And I dropped about 100 pounds in the next 6.5 months. And I was actually pretty skinny at that point. And then I gained back the muscle and got, you know, I went from basically 300 pounds to 189 at my lowest, which was my old wrestling weight. And then I gained back to about 220. I'm about 230 now, right? Probably 10% body fat now.
Okay,
That's awesome.
What was the workout and the diet plan that you used to get in the best shape of your life? And I think you it's like the very lean physiques that you have the photos of. Like, what was the workout plan and the nutrition plan that you used to get into your best shape?
Yeah. So when I first lost the weight, I was not following this plan. What I did was I just did really, really low calorie, eating like 90 calorie soups and shit. And so I just lost a bunch of muscle and fat at the same time. Right. So, I mean, it worked, but then I had to gain the muscle back, which isn't as
Right.
hard because you have the muscle memory. But when I got into my best physique, my best shape, is when I actually started doing 1 meal a day OMAD. So, and it wasn't something I had even heard of at the point. I just I was going on a trip to Hawaii and I knew I was going to be eating out a lot. And I was eating mostly like chicken and broccoli, like trying to, keep a clean diet. And so I was like, well, what I could do is I could skip breakfast and lunch every day. And then if I eat out, it's not that big of a deal, right? While I'm in Hawaii for this period of time. And I was there for 2 months. And when I came back from Hawaii, I had lost fat, but my strength went up. Like all my lifts went up, and I was like, "This is crazy!" Like, how could that be, right? And it turned out that the fasting was actually one of the most efficient things. So I sort of adopted this workout philosophy where I would lift 3 times a week, full body workouts, and then fast until 5 o'clock every day. And then I ended up doing, I do ultra running now and run marathons and stuff like that. So I was doing a lot of running as well. But yeah, that was the basic protocol: high protein, 1 meal a day, and lifting full body workouts.
Okay. Well, do you have like a specific nutrition plan that you follow right now, or are you kind of doing like a little bit of, or just like low calorie?
Yeah, I mean, right now, it's the big thing is really high protein, right? So I found that high protein is probably the best possible thing. It's the simplest diet that you can do, and fasting, right? So I'll fast until 2 p.m. every day, and then eat about 250 to 300 grams of protein per day. And if you do that, especially combining those things, it works so well because you're doing the fasting, right? So you're basically skipping breakfast, right? So you're pushing the meals out. So you're not going to be super hungry. And then if you're trying to get in my case, 250, 300 grams of protein, you're not going to be able to eat a lot of junk in order to get the protein.
Be full. Yeah.
Right. Exactly. So it works really, really well.
Yeah, I've done, man, when during the height of COVID, I was doing a lot of high protein. I was doing actually I was doing a lot of carnivore, like high protein.
Yeah.
I was eating like tomahawk steaks, like big like 2-pound steaks and stuff, and I was just going to town and having huge like eggs, like omelets, like 12 eggs or 14 eggs. And it was I mean, granted it sucked because at the same time, because I wish I had done that when the gyms came back, because then, I can build upon more muscle. But when you don't have that and all you're really doing is running and doing, calisthenics pretty much, it doesn't really give you that huge that big muscle gain that you really want. You can get good gains and slim down a good deal, but you won't get the full thing.
Yeah. I mean, Mike and I started actually running during when the pandemic started, because when everything locked down, we were like, no, we're not going to lock down. We're not going to not see our friends. We're not going to not have fun. Like, what? No, I don't think so. We never gave into any of that crap. So what we did was, when the gyms closed, we just ran every day, and we had, that's all we could do. So we ended up running and improving our stamina, while everybody else gained weight. We lost weight. And then when things started opening back up, everybody was a marshmallow. And I was like, what happened? What did that happen?
I remember, and what's funny is like the gym that we went to, like before the pandemic, it like shuttered completely. Like it was gone. Like we
Corona
couldn't go
killed
back.
it.
So we had to go find a new gym. And so when we finally saw that that this one gym opened and we went in there, we're just like, oh, there's some of the guys that were from the old gym. Oh God, what happened to them?
Yeah,
literally.
I had a similar thing. I mean, I started really upping my endurance running. That's when I ran a 50-mile race, was during COVID. Just because you had that, and it was also kind of a fight against. I'm here in California, and man, it was like ridiculous. They're trying to get you to wear masks while you're outside running. I would run by police, and the police were like, in fact, I was running on the beach, like on the boardwalk, and they chased me down because I wasn't supposed to be running on the boardwalk. I'm running on the sidewalk. They're like, got into it and the police officer was like, look, he's like, my superior told me, like, not to fuck with someone if they won't listen. And so I was like, oh, that's, I'm just going to do it. Like, it was so ridiculous. So crazy. It's amazing how, like, that was just a good glance into just how weak so much of society is, like, that we would just allow that, just take it like that. It's amazing. So, yeah.
it's clown world, honestly.
Yeah.
Things again. I can't wait to see what the kids are gonna grow up. These like, oh man, but that's a whole nother discussion. What do you think like the mindset of someone who like wants to make a lot of money is? Because I know you've done very well for yourself. And what are some things or some strategies that you use to like gain the mindset of mindset of a millionaire? You know what I mean, so to speak.
Yeah, I mean, I think I'm trying to think like, I mean, the big thing is like not to listen to all of the doubters, right?
Mm,
Because I remember when I was working my regular job in the cubicle farms, I was investing in real estate, and so many people were like, oh yeah, that's not going to work. You can't do that. You can't just buy a property and then have rent it out and have someone else pay the mortgage. Like it's a scam. It's a scam, right? It's like like building a business online. Yeah, you can't build a business online, right? It's a scam. And so
everything's a scam.
don't listen. Yeah, exactly. Everything. Because people don't want to believe that they're wasting their life, working this regular job when there's some other alternative out there. So and they hadn't been introduced to it, right? So for me, I met actually a friend of mine when I was living in Boise, Idaho, at a Magic the Gathering tournament. I was playing this card game, Magic the Gathering.
I know.
And this dude, he owned a Magic the Gathering store, like this online store. He still owns it. It's called ABU Games. His name is Gabriel. And then when I was talking, I was like, wait a minute. So you don't have a regular job? And he's like, no, I have the store. I sell Magic cards online. I was like, you can't make a lot of money doing that. He's like, no, I'm doing pretty good, right? And and that like opened up my eyes. Then I was like, wow, this is like, I don't have to follow the narrative, right? If you want to read some good books, MJ DeMarco, Millionaire Fastlane, and he writes some books. He has a book called Unscripted and stuff like that, and it's all kind of just about this idea of like, we've been brainwashed by society to believe, get a 9-to-5 job,
Right.
get good grades, go to college, all this kind of stuff, and it's
Be a factory worker.
Yeah, you don't have to do that. There's so many alternatives. There's so many things that you can do. And so I think the first thing is just like breaking your mind out of the matrix and realizing that, there are no rules to this. Like you can do whatever you like, everything that you're doing, you're choosing to do. And then I think the second thing is discipline, right? Like you have to learn how to discipline yourself and to develop the mental toughness in order to be able to be productive, right? You've got to be able to chart out your time and what you're going to do with your time, and pick goals and go after those goals, right? Because anything is achievable, anything is possible, right? If someone else can do it, you can do it. I mean, sometimes the simplest thing to do is just to find someone who's doing what you want to do and just copy what they're doing, right? It's like, it's right out there for you to do, but why do so many people not do it? One, they don't have the belief, and two, they don't have the commitment and dedication, right? Probably the most powerful thing is to be committed, right? So many people give up. They start a podcast, they start a YouTube channel, they start a whatever blog, and they do it for a couple of weeks, and then that's it. They're not committed to it.
Yeah, because literally it's also consistency. Because we've been doing this for a couple of years now, and a lot of people. There's been a couple people that said, you should probably just stop. You only had a couple hundred subscribers, and you should just find other better things to focus your time on. Well, this is what we really want to do. Is how we want to excel in this kind of field. So we're gonna keep going until we get what we want. It's all about consistency and the effort that you put in, because you can only get back to the world what you give into it. So that's a lot of people like to give it pretty easily. What's actually your favorite book? If you don't mind me asking.
I mean, it changes, but some of my favorite, like probably one of the favorite ones is As a Man Thinketh by James Allen. Is really good. I really, really like The War of Art by Stephen Pressfield. That was a really impactful book for me. Psycho-Cybernetics by Dr. Maxwell Maltz. Actually a really, really good one. You'll probably like this one, is How I Found Freedom in an Unfree World by Harry Brown. He was actually the Libertarian presidential candidate for twice. And yeah, I mean, those are some pretty solid ones. Another one that's really good is what's the one by Dr. Joseph Dispenza? I can't think of the name of it now, but those are a few.
What do you think is like the biggest challenge that men face today, and the biggest challenge that you faced and overcame?
I mean, I think the biggest one is, gosh,
I know there's a lot. I mean,
yeah. What's the biggest one? I mean, the biggest thing is distraction, right? Is
sedation as well. Yeah.
Yeah, because we have so many distractions now, right? And it's not even just distractions; it's also the influence, right? Because we believe. Do we think for ourselves, right? That's the big challenge. Is so many people
Jeez.
in general do not think for themselves. They just parrot what they've been told, and you see this everywhere, right? Because it's kind of crazy because you have this whole clown world, right? Feminist society,
Yeah.
and you have all of this, these stupid narratives with social justice wars and all that kind of bullshit, right? And then you have, okay, the manosphere, all right, here to save the day, red pill guys, right? We're gonna like break you out of the matrix, and then they go into their own fucking matrix, right? And
Yeah,
it's
then they
like
go down
they
the rabbit
parrot the
hole.
same shit that it's like just it's the same thing except different, right? And it's like you're not original thinker there. You're not being
Yeah.
think for yourself. You're following, so it just becomes factionalized, and that's the biggest challenge. Is that I mean, you look at politics today, right? And it's like so many people are so crazy and on left and right, and it's
Oh yeah.
because
So
of
ridiculous.
this. Like people are not thinking for themselves; they're just following along the party lines, whatever party that they're belonging to. And yeah, and again, you look anywhere, right? Black pill, right? These guys are brainwashed in their own echo chambers, all this stuff. So I think the biggest challenge is just like being an original thinker and being able to put yourself out there and not care what other people think, right? I
Yeah.
mean, it doesn't matter what their fucking opinion is. Like, what is your opinion? So many guys, we're so brainwashed by society that we don't even know what we think. We've never even self-examined. So many guys have never even said, what do I actually really think about this? They're looking for outside approval. They're looking for likes on Instagram. They're looking for something else to tell them that something is good, which comes back to the primary thing I talked about being a man is trusting your own judgment.
All right, absolutely. You ever see that TikTok guy who goes around college campuses and he asks the students, "What do you guys? Why? What do you think about Andrew Tate?" And then they say, "Oh, I hate him," and he says, "Why?" And they
Right.
they shut down. Like that's exactly kind of that's what I think about when you were talking about that.
Right.
It's pretty hilarious, and and then a lot of guys when they ever face criticisms, they seem to shut down. How do you like handle hate that people bring to you, like with anything? You know what I mean? Because I know you've been
Yeah.
through a lot of the YouTube battles and the black pill and all that kind of stuff. So like, how do you like deal with people and all the haters and people who say you can't do it? And like, what's the method?
Yeah, I mean, the biggest thing is one is not letting it get to you, right? So I don't care, if I walk down the street, okay, and there's a homeless guy, and he's like, "Fucking asshole," or whatever, he calls me some shit or something.
Yeah.
I don't take it personally because he's a homeless guy, like living like covered in his own feces, right? Like he's like, right. So that's how I view the haters and the trolls online is they're that's what they are because so that's kind of the first level, right? And then the second thing, and I'm not always perfect at this, but I try to combat all of this with love, right? Because when someone is attacking you, it comes from a lack of awareness, and it's usually they're crying out, right? They're crying out for help. It's a cry for help is what it is, because people who are successful, who are doing good in their own lives, they don't feel the need to attack other people or to bring other people down.
Right.
And so I try to remember that, and I try to remember this is an opportunity to lend, to give a helping hand to help someone else who could really use help, because if they're in this state, they could really use help. And so that's kind of how I try to view it. And many times you can turn haters you can turn them around, right, by doing that. Now, a lot of times it makes sense to just ignore people, or just I'm very quick on the block people from YouTube channel and Instagram now. I wasn't at first. I was like, no, let people say whatever I want. It's free speech. You can say whatever you want on my channel. But then I got to the point where I was like, you know what? Fuck this. Like, I don't need to deal with these people. Like if someone's going to have a constructive criticism or whatever, great, share your opinion. But if you're going to say something derogatory towards me, I don't even want to see you ever again. I have too much other stuff I'm dealing with and working on to have you come in here and so that's kind of what I do is I just filter them pretty much out, ignore them. If there's an opportunity to reach out to someone and help them, obviously, I'll do that. And I've tried to do that in kind of, the manosphere with black pill guys and stuff like that. And I've helped some guys, to get out of that space. But in general, yeah, you just have to not care what people think. That's the key.
Yeah, I feel like it comes down to respect. Like because if they're just not respectful, then yeah, get them the hell out.
As long as you respect yourself, yeah.
Right. Yeah.
Exactly.
You actually retired at kind of an early age. What do you think? Like because I think a lot of guys after they quote unquote retire, I mean, they don't usually find a new challenge that kind of lay down their sword and they kind of like lay down in the dirt and give up. So like, what do you think a man should do after he retires from a certain job or something? 'Cause I don't think the challenge of life ever really ends, and I think there's always something new for a man to conquer. Because I think that's what we're built to do. We're built to just attack new things, right, and conquer
Yeah.
new areas of life until there's no life. So.
Yeah, no, I think you're right. I mean, that's the thing is you got to figure out a new challenge, a new goal to go after. And really your goals, like I was saying before, need to be not what you'll get, but who you'll become. Right.
Mm.
So when I trained to run, 50-mile race, there was nothing I wasn't going to win it. I wasn't going to get money. It's not the best way to get in shape. Right. There's certainly better things you can do, more efficient things. So why do it? Right. It's because of who will I become in that process of going through that ordeal and training for that thing. I'll become stronger. I'll become tougher, more the person I want to become. So really at that point, you realize, you can get the things that you want, but none of those things will ever make you happy. It doesn't matter what possessions that you own. It doesn't matter how hot of a girl that you have or how many women you have sex with. None of those things really matter, right? What matters is who you become, right? As the Stoics say, the only thing that you really have is what remains after a fire. If a fire burned everything, right? That's basically yourself. That like what is within you. And so that's the thing, is like figuring out what's the next goal, what's something that's going to improve you that you want to go after, and going after that. In the first chapter of The Way of the Superior Man, David Data says it's never finished. And I think that's the key, is right. So many guys are like, okay, let me finally get to this point so I can rest, right? But the battle is fought anew every day, right? Every day is a new challenge, a new day. And if you think that you're going to get to some period in rest, or you think that eventually it's going to be easier to deal with a woman or something like that, as he's saying in the book, that's not the case. Stop thinking that. Stop looking for that. Stop living for the weekend. Stop living for afterward. Like, start living your life now, and assuming that every day you're going to have to fight the battle. That's what it is to be a warrior, is to wake up every day and know that there's a new opponent that you're going to have to fight. You never get to a point where you can just rest.
Absolutely, 1,000%.
Yeah.
Well, listen, John, man, we appreciate you coming on for the podcast, man, and definitely shout out to John Sonmez. And where can people reach you if they want to talk to you more, or what's your website and contact information, all that?
Yeah. Best thing to do is go to bulldogmindset.com. There's a quiz there that you'll see, like a 10-question quiz, give you your Bulldog score. So just fill that out, and then you'll get on my email list, and I'll send you emails with kind of videos and stuff like that. But yeah, bulldogmindset.com, or you can go to YouTube channel and check out Bulldog Mindset there as well.
Yeah, guys, check out John's membership. He's definitely a smart guy, has a lot to offer. If you guys want coaching and want to learn about real estate and all these different kinds of things about being a man, definitely check out John's work. Absolutely
great
respect. Job. And with this, we're going to end here, and we're going to see you guys in the next podcast or live stream.
All right. Thanks for having me.
Appreciate it.
No problem, man.